History owes us nothing because it has given us everything. Lessons and ideas have led to innovations. It has given us identity. It tells our story and generations past. History owes us nothing because it's the only sure thing. And even in our present, history's hand is intertwined. And for the days not yet counted, history patiently waits to write. Yesterday, we celebrated those who skillfully and intentionally crafted our present, standing as symbols of resilience, an apt representation of the need for justice, equality, and freedom. History owes us nothing. Our national heroes owe us nothing. They have given us everything. Welcome. I'm Theodore Henry, and this is Jamaica Magazine. I'll be back with the news after this message. Good day, I'm Theodore Henry, and this is your JIS News for Tuesday, October 18, 2022. Over 10,000 residents from communities in St. Catherine will receive improved service delivery following the commissioning of the Sligoville water system upgrade. The Sligoville pumping station number 4 is being upgraded at a cost of $34.4 million. Phase 1 of the upgrading works was completed in July 2022 and officially commissioned into service last Thursday by Minister without Portfolio in the Ministry of Economic Growth and Job Creation, Matthew Samuda. He says the area should also benefit from initiatives started elsewhere to improve water storage capacity for residents.
We have also been installing 50,000 and 100,000 gallon tanks. And I think in looking at the area, that's one of the things we're going to probably have to look at as we bring the reliability to the space. To move from, I know we've moved from about 4 hours in some areas of reliable water supply to about 12 to 13. I think we're going to have to look at the overall design and see if that is suitable for this area.
Phase 2 of the Sligoville upgrade is expected to be completed at the end of December. It will provide more than 14 hours of service to the communities of Pleasant Farm, Keith Hall, Top Jackson, Top Kensington, Bottom Kensington, Stanberry Grove, Sligoville Main Road, and James Mountain. Government has so far built and delivered 100 units under the new social housing program, NSHP. This following the delivery of 2 units in St. Catherine. Prime Minister Andrew Holness, who visited the parish for the handing over ceremony recently, says it's an important part of the process to build organized communities across the island.
Whatever we are going to do with land, it must be done in a formal way. This business of just seeing land and occupying it has to stop. We have to be very smart about land. And if people build in ways that are not structured, it makes it very difficult for the government to provide for you and provide the necessary services that you need.
The first of the 2 latest NSHP homes, which was delivered in Pusey, was completed in under 3 months at a cost of $4.9 million. The second unit, a 3-bedroom house, was presented to Patrick Watson in Cudjoe's Hill, St. Catherine. The Central Sorting Office, CSO, on South Camp Road has officially reopened for business following months of extensive renovation works. The project included tiling, replacement of counters and painting, as well as the introduction of technological solutions to automate processes. The renovated facility, which will now serve as the blueprint for the new face of Jamaica Post, also received 16 desktop computers to improve efficiency and service delivery. Postmaster General Lincoln Allen says the upgrade signals a major milestone as the Post and Telecommunications Department continues its efforts to modernize the country's postal service.
And signals the beginning of a new era, one that we celebrate under the theme, the rebranding of Jamaica Post. Therefore, the PTD fully appreciates that the postal service, whether locally or globally, is in a constant state of flux. It continues to change. It's very dynamic. And so in order to survive another 350 years or more, there has to be a paradigm shift in our operations.
In addition to traditional services, customers can access the new Premium Service Center at the CSO Post Office. Minister of Science, Energy and Technology Darrell Vaz has commended the department for the advances made in retaining the relevance of the postal service in the digital age.
Post offices are important socio-economic institutions which provide significant linkages between the digital and the physical space. We would all agree e-commerce and online shopping have become increasingly prominent in our society, and the postal service is integral to the aiding the delivery of many of these products we purchase online.
221 outstanding Jamaicans were recognized during yesterday's National Honors and Awards ceremony at King's House. Heading the list of recipients is Monty Alexander, one of 10 individuals conferred with the Order of Jamaica this year. He was recognized for sterling contribution to the promotion of Jamaican music and the jazz genre interpretations globally. Other notable Jamaicans honored with the Order of Jamaica are Minister Olivia Grange, track star Shelley-Ann Fraser-Price, retired Justice Carl Stanhope Harrison, Rita Humphreys-Lewin, Professor Maureen Elaine Sams-Vaughan, Audrey Vivius Sewell, and Professor Alvin George Wint. The award was also given posthumously to Joan Isabel Duncan for distinguished services to the banking sector, while Shirley Ralph received an honorary Order of Jamaica for sterling contribution as an actress, cultural ambassador for Jamaica, and contribution to the international film industry. During the National Heroes Day ceremony, 65 persons were also conferred with the Order of Distinction, 30 in the rank of Commander and 35 in the rank of Officer. 6 Jamaicans received the Badge of Honor for Gallantry, 29 the Badge of Honor for Meritorious Service, and 30 the Badge of Honor for Long and Faithful Service. 2 members of the Jamaica Constabulary Force received the Medal of Honor for Gallantry. And 78 members of the uniformed groups representing the JCF, the Jamaica Defense Force, the Department of Correctional Service, and the Jamaica Fire Brigade have been bestowed with the Medal of Honor for Meritorious Service. And finally, Prime Minister Andrew Holness is calling on Jamaicans to renew their commitment to the rule of law, peace, and each other. During his National Heroes Day message, Mr. Holness stressed the need for a return to law and order in schools, the home, and on the roads.
With knowledge of the suffering and sacrifice of those who came before us, let us commit to respecting ourselves at the most basic level, by respecting each other's right to life. Marcus Garvey said it. If we as a people realize the greatness from which we came, we would be less likely to disrespect ourselves. Let us agree not to shed the blood of our brothers and sisters and to resolve conflicts peacefully.
National Heroes Day was observed under the theme, Reigniting a Nation for Greatness. And that's it for JIS News Today. I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for watching.
Respect for myself and others. Self-discipline means there's a right way to conflict resolution. Kindness and compassion say being nice is normal. Honesty and integrity are badges of honor. Yes, we choose values for life.
Communication goes as far back as the writings and etchings on the walls. Communication now is instantaneous and happens in clicks, taps, video, or voice commands. It has always been the main staple of our evolving world and one that is always on the rise. Today we trek backwards as we look at the early beginnings of the mail service in Jamaica, an important part of the communication story.
It's an outdated practice for many, and a much slower process when compared to the speed at which technology moves today. But its efforts in revolutionizing communication is certain, especially with key players at its helm helping to shape the industry. Sure, today you may prefer to hear news from your relative overseas through an email or catch up with your friends over a phone call. But in times past, these technologies seemed unattainable and postal services a need. It is believed by some researchers that the first credible claim for the development of a real postal system comes from ancient Persia, while others date the service back to Egypt. Whatever the case, through varied stages of development, the postal industry kept the lines of communication open across the world. In Jamaica, it began in the 1600s, making the island the first British colony to have an established post office, and the Royal Mail kept the industry booming. The Royal Mail, which started in the 1960s in Jamaica, quickly became one of the primary modes of transporting mails to and from post offices across the island. With its office located in Kingston, the Royal Mail collected letters or parcels from the Central Sorting Office and other post offices and agencies for distribution right across the country. Many Jamaicans can remember the Royal Mail vans moving letters around. Captained by Charles Moore, the reach of the company quickly grew as he sought to ensure his vans went to every nook and cranny of the island.
He had all these little red buses that would go to pick up the mail. And in the mornings, we would go in early because there's a schedule for the drivers to take the little buses down to the Central Sorting Office. From that, they would collect the mail and then go deliver it where they were supposed to. And then they would come back in the evening with the empty vans. The mail industry at that point in time was significant. It made a significant contribution to business development because that's how you got your correspondence. That's how you'd get a letter. And the mail brought news. The mail van used to also transport the daily newspapers to the rural part of Jamaica too. So the mail van meant that here was information, here is something happening. So I think it contributed to business development and the growth of the economy in those times. The mail van would go to the Central Sorting Office, and pick up the mail and take it to the post offices out in the rural area. It's delivering a bundle of mail to different post office out in rural Jamaica or even in Kingston. Even if it picks it up from the Central Sorting Office, it would take it to the Halfway Tree Post Office and the Constant Spring Post Office and those post offices so that the mail could be sorted and then put in the mailboxes.
But someone had to ensure the wheels continued turning.
I was delivering mail in 80s, carry mail, and then we carry staff to and from. We carry the mail around. Sometimes we carry the postman them or the post lady. Them go deliver parcel and everything there. We have to drive the Royal Mail, go airport, from airport to CSO, and from there, sometimes we go Stone Hill, Constant Spring. Remember them time you never have telegram, you know. So we always carry a parcel come at your house. We carry a register slip come, and then we carry the parcel and you either pay or you go down on the post office suite or something. Some red mailbox, them used to drop mail in there, and then we go there with the postman and clear them at evening time. After we clear the box, like 10 boxes at evening time, then we go CSO and with the postman and them finish. You know.
Wilby's journey, as he said, was far and wide, even hitting some 58 kilometers outside of the capital.
When we lived in Manning before we moved to Kingston, we knew about Royal Mail because that was how we know to go to the post office. We would know when the Royal Mail van came and when to go to the post office to see if there were any letters for us. You know, in those days, people wrote a lot more letters than they are writing now. So I knew about Royal Mail from when I was a child, and then met Mr. Moore, who was involved in the transportation of the mail.
Charles Moore, who charted the development of the Royal Mail and dominated as a contractor in the delivery of the Daily Gleaner, distinguished himself in the field of transportation. He was driven by a commitment to create access and opportunity for every Jamaican, which proved to be the rationale behind his choice of vehicle.
You depended on the mail because you didn't have You didn't have Wi-Fi. You either got a letter or you get a telegram. And he was instrumental in ensuring that people got their letters. And so the Royal Mail was all over the country. Anybody who grew up in the period in the 60s and 70s and early 80s would remember the red vans with Royal Mail. Growing up in country, in rural Jamaica, we knew the schedule of the mail van, and we knew when the mail van was going to come, and therefore when we needed to run out to Monig to see if there was any mail. And you could, you know, the Jamaican expression, you could put your pot on fire and know that the mail van was coming.
And while those red vans are no longer in operation, they have played a key role in connecting people to each other and expanding Jamaica's mailing industry.
All children deserve positive parenting. Why not pamper us? Be patient with us. Make time to teach us and, of course, play with us. Celebrate milestones with us and don't forget to be our #1 supporter. Do all these things and practice positive parenting today.
Women are waves. Waves are everywhere, and they are a part of our daily lives. It's easy to understand why these exceptional women in our next presentation can be likened to this energy.
History and perhaps culture have kept many women a rung lower on the professional ladder and firmly planted in fields once deemed a man's domain. But more women are going beyond the expected and dismantling these stereotypical norms. One of the biggest areas in which they're going beyond the unseen rules guiding gender and professional expectations is hydrology.
Hi, I'm Alexia Gray and I'm a woman in hydrology.
Hi, my name is Natalie Hutchings and I'm a hydrogeologist at the Water Resources Authority. And yes, I'm a woman.
I ended up being a hydrologist completely by accident, by serendipity. I wanted to do engineering when I finished high school, but I didn't get into the program when I first applied. So I enrolled in geology and physics classes in my first year at university, and the rest is history.
As a hydrogeologist, some of my routine work includes wells and stream flow monitoring and measurements. I also do water quality sampling, and I create maps and do reports. So essentially my work takes me traveling around Jamaica in search for water sources. Hydrogeology was something I've always wanted to do. So from high school, I wanted to be a geologist. So I went to UWI to do geology. And then that led me into a career at the WRA, where now I work in water. And I've come to appreciate water as the most invaluable natural resource on Earth.
Despite ideas of progress not always matching parity, or the whole narrative of what's a man's or a woman's job, what these women are doing is significantly impacting lives right across the country.
The Water Resources Authority has 3 main roles. We investigate queries about new and existing water sources or resources. We collect data in terms of stream flow and quality, and we also allocate water to users such as the NWC, which is our biggest user, and other entities.
In order to allocate water, we would have to have an understanding of how much water is available. So we would do data collection such as flow measurements or well measurement and understand how much water is available to see how much water is in demand, and then we do the calculations So where there is a deficit, water is usually supplied from areas where there's a surplus to balance things out.
For these women, their duties also expand to providing responses in times of drought.
The key to drought resiliency is improved capture and storage of water. Jamaica has more than enough water to serve its population. However, our problem is that we do not capture enough of it and we do not have enough storage for the population. So the key is to capture it, reduce leaks, and to build more storage, install tanks, build more dams, and other types of reservoirs.
They're also testing and assessing the quality of our groundwater while keeping us all in the know.
Jamaica's groundwater quality is generally good. It meets the ambient standard, the national ambient standard. Ambient meaning doesn't need any treatment, right? However, there are a few basins that are contaminated due to pollution or saltwater intrusion. But for the most part across the island, our groundwater is pretty good for domestic use. However, for agricultural and industrial users, they may need to treat their water to international standards depending on what they're going to use it for.
And as for their perception on why the profession of hydrology or hydrogeology remains a male-dominated field?
For a hydrologist or hydrogeologist, being out in the field means doing physical and practical tasks. It usually includes long drives out of town, hiking through river valleys, over hills in search for water. The profession is usually male dominated because we live in a society and a culture where men are usually seen as physically stronger, and they also require less security in the field.
Women were not allowed to work, we were not even allowed to become educated to do these jobs. So that has been changing with changing attitudes of both men and women. It's improving, but we have a far way to go.
And just like these two female hydrologists, many women are stepping into diverse professions, and they're changing the old narrative to craft their own stories.
There's no one way to truly play the beat of our Jamaican culture. No one way to unfold the depth of the various movements that are intricately intertwined with the drums, or whatever uniquely made instruments that accompany each other. And certainly, no one way to shake our hips, tap our feet, move our hands or dress to distinguish the truest form of our heritage in dance. But there are certainly several ways to tell the island's tale of musical artistry and infectious rhythms. Today, we tell the story of the African retention in one of our Jamaican traditional folk forms, gere.
Gere is one of Jamaica's more than 10 traditional folk forms that are mostly influenced by our African heritage and retention. Today, we take a close look at this work of art. To observe the fundamental rhythm of this artistry, we visited the award-winning William Knibb High School in Trelawney.
Hello, Bayado. Hello, Bayado. Hello, Bayado. You write me love letter. Me put it on the table. Me woman come read it. Hello, Bayado. Hello, Bayado. Hello, Bayado.
Gere is a dance of African origin that is usually performed the second night after the death of a person. The dance is very lively, flirtatious, and celebratory in nature, geared towards cheering the bereaved.
I should tell you too that most of our traditional folk from the African retentions, they are more similarities than differences. And the differences come sometimes in the songs or the music instrument or some of the steps. But there are more similarities than differences.
With that said, the Gere dance is similar to that of Dinkimini and Zella, with more emphasis being placed on the hippie movement, executed mainly by the female dancers.
The main movement for the ladies is the hippie movement, right? The hippie movement, and it's not a whiny movement. It's not a whiny movement, it's just a little hippie movement, like the mentor movement, a little dip, all right? And for the males, you'll find them doing the knock knee like the dinky mini.
The movements, although vigorous, are very subtle. The males would maintain the knock knee position while exhibiting various styles and nuances as they execute their movement with subtle breaks towards their female partner, which is signaled by the drums. The music and songs are done in ring game style and often employ a call and response, which indicates the type of movement the dancer should do.
So you have a caller and have the response. The group respond to it.
Like all our other traditional folk forms, the Gere dance would not be possible without lively musical accompaniment. A host of instruments are used to bring life to the dance.
In the Gere, you will see the rattle and the bass drum, which is a dominant to revival. But then the dominant thing in Gere that makes it different from Dinky Mini and the other is the pot cover. And that gives a nice sound. All right?
As it relates to costume, Gere dancers are clad in the typical African retention dress code, loose skirt and peasant blouse for the females, and tailored pants and dashiki shirt for males.
All over African retention dances, traditional folk forms, they are done with 16 persons performing, and you have 6 others outside doing the singing and playing the instruments.
Today, Gere is mostly practiced in the western end of the island, but you will also see it being performed as part of the annual JCDC Festival of the Performing Arts competition. One thing is for sure, wherever it is practiced, one cannot help but notice that Gere has its own distinctive flair, which makes it a vital asset in Jamaica's rich amalgamation of cultures.
And when you bend down low, and when you bend down low, and when inna me red away, inna me, and when you bend down low, and when you bend down low, and when you bend.
Here's where we leave you, but you can visit our website jis.gov.jm for more, or send us an email, jis@jis.gov.jm. While history owes you nothing, you owe it to your future to make your present count. History is always writing, history is always watching, history is always present. I'm Theodore Henry. Thanks for being here, and take care.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.